Hi, friends. Welcome. It's Will, and I'm here with another tarot reading. Today, we are going to ask the question, what message do you need to hear right now? So, I've chosen to use the Ethereal Visions Tarot, the Luna edition. This is a new-ish deck for me, so I've used it a couple of times, but it's still kind of new for me. I think it's very beautiful. I really like it. You'll get a peek at it here in a moment if you're not yet familiar with it. I'm going to burn some Palo Santo here so that we can get some smoke on these cards. And what I've done is I've pulled out the four aces from the deck and I've laid them out here and paired each one randomly with a crystal. So we've got selenite here, number one, fluorite, number two, black agate, number three, and desert rose, number four there. Here's the deck. Let's just get some smoke on all these cards. And then what I'll do is flip the aces over. You can choose based on the crystal if you prefer, or you can also choose or have your choice informed by the ace that comes up. And so, each of the aces corresponds to a particular aspect of existence, of life, right? And so, if you've got a question about money, then you probably want to pick the Ace of Pentacles. If it's a question about love, Ace of Cups, and so on. So I'll just set these aside. And let's start number one. This is with the selenite. We've got Ace of Cups. So if you are looking for a love reading, if you're thinking about emotions, feelings, creativity as well, the unconscious, I think all of that goes with Ace of Cups. All right, with the fluorite, number two, we've got Ace of Pentacles. So if you're thinking about material concerns, results, plans, your well-being, your behavior, all of that kind of stuff, home life, workplace stuff, all of that would come up in an Ace of Pentacles reading. With number three, the black agate. Here we've got the Ace of Swords. There's a conflict that's happening that you want to know about. If this is about the mind, intellect, an idea that you have, communication with someone, that would all fit into the Ace of Swords. And then here with the Desert Rose, we've got, of course, the Ace of Wands. And so here we're thinking about career, passion, some action that you feel like you need to take or are in the progress of taking. This is also, I think, a card about being very social with others. So maybe if it's about like a friend group, something like that. Can also have to do with sexuality. The Ace of Wands can. Anything passionate and fiery. All right, so these are your four cards. Please choose Ace of Cups, Pentacles, Swords, or Wands. 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll find the timestamps below, and I will see you in your reading. Hello, Group 1, and welcome to your reading. You chose the Ace of Cups, and we are going to ask and answer the question, what message do you need to know right now that has to do with relationships, feelings, emotions, creativity could come up here, the unconscious, whatever fulfills you, all of that is Ace of Cups stuff. So I've got the card up there. I have shuffled them prior to starting. Let me just shuffle them a little bit more so you can see that I'm doing it. I'll knock on the cards, I'll cut them, and then I'm going to lay out 3 cards and we'll read them as an answer to our initial question and use them to generate follow-up questions. We'll probably lay about 9 cards total, but we'll see what happens. Please consider liking and subscribing if you're enjoying my videos, and let me know in the comments What stood out for you in your reading today? What resonated? What did you connect with? Okay, let's lay out 3 cards. What message do you need to hear right now that has to do with everything related to Ace of Cups? King of Cups. So, having knowledge and power over one's emotions, knowing how to express your feelings publicly, how to do it in an appropriate way, and also recognizing that there may be an element of being diplomatic and holding some things back publicly, right? Let me tell you what I'm talking about. There is a fish up here, right? And it's an actual real live fish. In fact, in this version of the card, there are several. Often on this card, there's just one. We've got several real live, actual existing fish, right? And then on the king's necklace, there is a fake fish, a synthetic fish, a manufactured representation of a fish that isn't a real fish, right? The King of Cups is sort of in between the two worlds of like the real, raw emotion, how it really is, and then the artificial emotion, which is acceptable publicly outside to others. And the king gets that. The King of Cups understands the difference between those two and when you bring out the one and when you bring out the other, and that there may be in some situations, public social situations especially, contexts when like you don't always say everything that you feel, right? Sometimes you say something that's similar to what you feel, but you can't always just come right out and say it all, right? So that's the first thing that comes to mind. King of Cups. Okay, nobody panic. Nobody panic. It's the Death card has come up for us, 13 of the major arcana. We know about this card, right? We know that it's about transition and transformation, okay? It can refer to some kind of loss, and not always for the worse, right? Right, like this could be a situation in which the King of Cups, probably you, right? And you, as you know, if you're watching this channel a while, I read all the court cards regardless of gender. So the King of Cups can be a person of any gender. Maybe they're experiencing a loss, or maybe you are just experiencing a big transformation of your feelings, right? I always think of, I guess it's cliche, but I always think of like the caterpillar turning into a butterfly with the death card, right? In a sense, the caterpillar has to die for the butterfly to be reborn, right? So it could be that kind of transformation that is happening here. The Artist. Okay, so this, as I said, is a new deck for me, and the Artist is one of the major arcana cards, which doesn't appear in most decks. It's unique to this specific deck. And I believe it's about being a visionary, about seeing things that other people cannot see, and like translating them or turning them into something like a representation of that thing. So, with the King of Cups, I think of someone who is very creative. I think of someone who is very in touch with their emotions and feelings, and who has figured out how to translate that into public, everyday, outward life, right? But maybe what's happening here is a situation where that part of you is transforming and you feel like you need to get more in touch or in contact with your creative artistic side again. I think the King of Cups is maybe someone who has had to give up some of their creative life in the past, right, in order to achieve a certain position, right? So maybe you're feeling like you have had to sacrifice and give up something important to you about your creativity. And there's a transformation happening now where you're realizing you need to come back to that, right? You need to start seeing things not in terms of what is appropriate publicly and in social situations for my creativity, for my relationships with others, for my emotions, what feelings is it appropriate for me to let out, and let that go, let it die, and say, no, I'm going to be a weirdo naked artist guy on this floor over here sketching these beautiful trees, clouds, and castle that I see, right? So I would think for you the message that you need to hear right now is you are going through a kind of creative transformation, and I think probably you should be embracing that. That'll be the next question that we ask. But the message you need to hear is there's um, a transition happening in the way that you are accessing fulfillment in your life, right? And it has to do, I think, with maybe there is some unconscious stuff that you have kept repressed, right? That you haven't acknowledged. And now that repression is coming to an end, transforming, and it's coming out again. And you probably would need to deal with that. I mean, you do, right? You do need to deal with that. So let's push these cards up and let's ask the question. Let me just formulate it in my mind here for a moment. Let's ask the question, um, how, what can you do to best facilitate this current transformation that you're going through? Okay, what can you do? How can you best facilitate this transformation of your feelings, emotions, creativity that you're going through? And so we'll lay 3 more cards to answer that question. This is our what, how question. Page of Cups. So you were the king and you're transforming into an artist, into a page, right? So this is about starting over again, starting something new again, being ready to begin a new journey, a new stage of a journey. It could also be about a new relationship. Whenever I see the Page of Cups, I think back to how you felt the first time you fell in love with someone, or the first time you had a really big crush on someone. That totally overpowering feeling of butterflies in your stomach, and oh, I don't know what to do if I can't be near them, and constantly thinking about them and all of that. That's the Page of Cups. That's what the Page of Cups is going through all the time. The fish that on the King of Cups appear in the background behind, like in his past, and in the present only on the necklace in an artificial way. That fish is now in a cup right out in front of the page. So, and it's a real live fish, right? It's not a carving of a fish. It's not a manufactured fish. It's a real fish. So this is all about um, getting the message to start this new beginning with your creativity and your emotional life, right? I do think that reconnecting to your creativity could also open you up to new relationships if that is something that is on the horizon for you. So, Wheel of Fortune coming here on top of the Death card. Uh, 2 things that come to mind. One is you were fated. It was meant to be. It was just in the cards for you, so to speak, that you were going to go through this transformation from king to artist slash page, right? That, in other words, there's nothing you can do to stop it, right? Like, so don't even try, just embrace it. That's what this is so far. All these cards are saying, just like, go for it, embrace this. It might be kind of scary, right? Because if you can imagine, a king has a whole lot of power and a page doesn't. And so it might feel almost like a demotion in that sense. And that can be pretty uncomfortable, but you need to embrace it because this was always going to happen. The other possible way of reading the Wheel of Fortune here would be more like it's happening again, because the wheel not only turns, it returns. So maybe this is a cycle that you've been through before of like, not embracing your creativity in an authentic way and then realizing that you need to do that, that it's time to do that again. And so maybe this is a kind of cycle that is repeating itself. We've got 8 swords here. So 8 swords means you feel stuck, but you are capable of freeing yourself. There's no reason why you cannot free yourself. The tools for your liberation are all around you. You have a blindfold on, so you're not seeing them. And so you've got to get outside your own mind. I would even go so far as to say with this reading, like, don't focus on what you're thinking. You really need to focus on what you're feeling. Here's why. Kings I associate all with the element with swords, right? So the element of air with the intellect with the mind, right? Kings know, they have knowledge and power over conflict related to their suit. So here we've got air and water, right? We've got swords and cups, and we're talking about, with the first 3 cards, a transformation away from that swords energy and into, with the Page of Cups, pages are earth, right? So with the 8 of swords coming up, I think it's like reinforcing the leave the swords behind, leave the mind behind, leave the intellect behind. This is about feeling. You need to be feeling things, not thinking things. So trust your heart, like trust your gut, even trust your feelings. You might be overthinking things. Don't do that anymore. Now is not the time for you to do that. So, how can you ease this transition, or what can you do to facilitate this transition back into your creative self? Embrace it. It was fated. It was always going to happen. And don't overthink it. Don't focus on the mind. Focus on your feelings. And I would also add, on your relationships to others. Let's ask now, what do you stand to gain? What is at stake? What is a potential reward that could come for you if you are able to successfully complete this transition, this transformation that is happening? We'll lay 3 more cards for that. And so the Tower comes up first. So some of the old plans that you had may not may not come to be, right? There may be something you had built up, tried to establish, and through this transition that you are going through, they may not pan out. Another thing to think about would be your sense of self may change, right? The Tower can represent the ego, right? And kings are probably more egoistic than pages. And so, in letting your creativity come out again, when it's been repressed down below, you may find that your sense of self feels like it's crumbling a bit, and that can be uncomfortable. Notice in this particular version of the card, the falling figure who's upside down practically, they've got a mask on, right? And so your mask may come off. And in the long run, I think that will be for the good. We've got the Well here, which is another major arcana, and it's one of these new major arcanas that has appeared, or that has been published, I should say, with this deck. And so the Well, just like the Artist, is one of these new cards. And so the Well, you can sort of see it here. There's a figure, right, with a censer burning all of this beautiful incense. And she's sitting on the edge of a well. And what is in the well? Well, the well is there's water down there, right? So we've got a kind of reservoir of creativity. It's the unconscious. Maybe it's a kind of abyss where there's things down there and you don't know if they're good, if you want what's down there. But it's also where everything new and beautiful comes from. And so, what could you stand to gain? Losing some of your ego and gaining access to this fountain of creativity. Now, you want to be careful too. There's a warning that comes along with a well, I think, because you can fall down a well, right? Uh, you can get stuck down there, and that can be really dangerous. So she's balancing on the edge of it, and I think that's what you would want to do with the well. Also, don't fall down it, but also don't avoid it. The trick is to sit on the edge to get what you can get from it without falling in. Okay, three swords. So I would not read this here as heartbreak. It doesn't make sense in the context of the other cards and of the question. I would read this here as learning a new way to grow your mind, to learn, right? Threes are growth and swords is the mind. So learning a new way to synthesize, to integrate matters of the mind with matters of the heart. Okay. So, because, swords are mind, and then we've got the heart here. So, swords are really showing up in a very interesting way, I think, in this reading, with the King of Cups representing also swords, at least in the system that I use, right? And then we have the Eight of Swords coming up saying, like, don't let your mind trap you, right? But what can you gain from going through this transformation and creative rebirth? Well, you can gain a new way. You can learn a new way of using your intellect again in conjunction with your heart, as opposed to instead of your heart, right? Okay. So I will end the reading there. You are on a creative journey here. You should embrace it. It was fated to happen. Don't get stuck in your mind, but open yourself up to this change, to maybe losing some ego, letting some plans fall through if that's what it takes. Find this well of creativity and bring the mind back in, learn something from it, but don't let it get you stuck. Have it help you, don't let it hurt you. Okay? If you enjoyed this reading, please consider liking and subscribing. Tell me in the comments what resonated with you. I'd love to hear it, and I will see you in your next reading. Hello, group 2, and welcome to your reading. You chose the Ace of Pentacles from the Ethereal Visions Tarot Luna Edition. Let me stack our Pentacles card up here and shuffle these. And so, because you chose Ace of Pentacles, there's some practical matter that you're maybe wondering about: home life, work life, your well-being, behaviors, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to lay out 3 cards and use those cards to answer the question, what do you need to know right now as it pertains to Ace of Pentacles stuff? And then we'll see where that takes us. We'll lay out three cards at a time to answer a series of questions generated through the responses we get from the cards. So, what do you need to know right now that has to do with Pentacles stuff? We're starting with a star. So, you should be optimistic. You should have some hope right now. There's maybe something you're feeling guided towards. Consider embracing that. Strength, inner strength, patience. Uh, be willing to take a risk. Be willing to do something that maybe other people would say, are you out of your mind? Are you really going to sit down next to that lion? And you say, I sure am, because I'm strong enough. Strength is also, I think, about taming your desires, your inner passions, but also learning when and how to let the lion out, so to speak. And Eight Pentacles. Well, that's not surprising to see, given that you chose the Ace of Pentacles for this reading. So, Eight Pentacles is about making a strong effort, progress, like skilled labor, professional labor, even. So, uh, you know, this could be a situation where you've been working really hard on like a job or at school or some practical kind of project, like something around the house, maybe. And you have every reason to be hopeful that everything you've been pouring out into it is going to pay off. And you've got the strength to accomplish it. This is a really, I mean, these are very positive cards. There's not a lot of warnings or like, be careful. I guess if I was going to say anything, I would say with the Eight of Pentacles, there can sometimes be a feeling maybe of boredom, like uniformity, everything feels the same, right? Every single pentacle looks identical to the one before it, and here you are just making more and more and more and more of them. So there is a possibility that there's some repetition that's getting a little out of hand, that's making you feel kind of bored about something. But there's great reason to be hopeful because of the great inner strength that you have. And, maybe a willingness to take some kind of risk here. So, what message do you need to hear right now? And the message is be hopeful, you are strong, and you are making really good progress towards a practical goal. Okay. So let's ask another question. These cards are so positive, which I love to see, but like, you're probably not just here for me to tell you good things about your life, right? You probably are wondering, like, what could I do differently or how can I improve? Don't just tell me I'm great and strong and all of this. So, let's ask as our follow up question, what should you be watching out for? What should you watch out for going forward? Anxiety, got Nine Swords, could also be sleep issues. Are you sleeping well? That would be something to watch out for. Um, Feeling like you've got thoughts distracting you, keeping you up at night. Um, Feeling just anxious in general, maybe some regret. That's another possibility with the Nine of Swords. Six of Wands is about public recognition for achievement, having a victory, and the public, other people witness it and see it, right? So, all these pentacles that you're manufacturing, other people are going to see you accomplishing that. And the six can also be about collaborating with those people. Maybe you're in a kind of leadership position, or um, that could be something that's coming up for you. And so, something to watch out for would be, well, here's how I think of it, right? Like, do you want to be in a leadership position? Do you want to be on this horse and having people follow you? If you're going to be successful, you might get like promoted, right? Do you want to be promoted? Um, you know, in certain positions, in certain jobs, the way it works is like the more you do, the more they give you to do, right? And so, are you anxious about that? Or are you like, no, I want that. I want to keep advancing here. I'm happy to do that. That's something I look forward to. Eight wands. So we do get here a progression from six to eight wands. So there's a fairly slow growth of wands. Wands can represent tasks, things we need to do, right? We can use those wands, they look like sticks, right? We can use them to build things. And so there's a slow progression of like you're taking on more responsibilities, more tasks that you need to accomplish. With the Eight of Wands, too, I also do think about sometimes about travel. So that's a possibility that there's travel involved coming up, maybe related to a job or something. But I also think of the Eight of Wands as like shooting out a whole bunch of arrows or like casting out a whole bunch of seeds. You can see in the satchel to the side, that's where all of the wands are located. And so traveling along, moving along, and throwing like a whole bunch of darts at a board and hoping that one of them will stick, right? That's the other thing that comes to mind. So, what should you be watching out for in your current pentacles or coin situation? Um, Anxiety that maybe is interfering with your sleep. Watch out for that. Watch out for getting public recognition. If that is something that is unwanted, then watch out for that. And then finally, growing tasks, more things that you're going to have to do. And so, if you're in a position where it's something you're really passionate about and you're looking forward to taking on new tasks and having more responsibilities and doing more things, then great. But if all of that sounds like the opposite of what you want, then beware, I guess I would say, right? Okay, let's just pull three more cards quickly here and we'll say, Um, what do you stand to gain? What rewards can you expect? All this effort you're putting in, some anxiety, some public recognition, an increase of tasks, an increase of responsibilities. What might be the outcome of this or like the reward of all of this? Seven Pentacles. Okay. So, results, right? Fruits from your labors, right? This person has been cultivating these pentacles and here they've grown, although you do have to wait. There is a sense here that you may need to do some waiting before you get everything that's owed to you, before all the results come in. Page of Pentacles. So, um, this would make me think of almost like a new job, like, or like a new course of study. I suppose it could also be a promotion in the sense that it's new, but you will not, it's not a promotion in the sense that you're not like becoming a king. Um, you're going to feel, even if it's a promotion, you would feel like um, you're starting all over again, right? Like you just feel uncertain, probably kind of hesitant, but a lot of pentacles, right? Like we had 8 pentacles up here. Here we've got 7 plus 1 that the page is holding. Ooh, and the lovers. Well, that is interesting to see here because we haven't really been talking about relationships at all, but here the lovers make an appearance. And so I would be tempted to read it here in terms of one of its interpretations as a choice. The lovers are making a choice, and they're also, the lovers is the major arcana card that is a lesson about how in our lives it's our relationships with others that really matter. That's the lesson. Um, and so this could be a situation where, because you're working so much and maybe getting a promotion and cultivating things, that maybe you need to also consider the effect this is having on your relationships with others. If you're always at work, are you paying attention to your partner or your family or your kids or whatever it might be? Uh, and so that's one thing to consider. It could also just be the choice, as I said earlier, like maybe you're going to have a choice between this job or that job, or this promotion, or go to that department instead. It's sort of showing me like your results are paying off, right? You've been optimistic, you've been strong. Yes, there's been some anxiety. Yes, maybe there's some public recognition, and you may or may not be totally comfortable with that. And yes, you're taking on more responsibilities and duties, but you're being recognized for that. People are seeing it. And so now you have more options available to you, right? Do you want to do this job or do you want to do that job? Do you want to be in this department or that one? Whatever it might be. Cool. Well, this is a really optimistic reading. I suppose the other thing I would just add is with the lovers, like maybe whatever this change in your practical situation is leads you to meeting someone who you have a relationship with. That's also a possibility. So I'll end the reading there. Please consider liking and subscribing. And if something in these cards resonated with you, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. And I will see you in your next reading. Hello, Group 3, and welcome to your reading. You chose the Ace of Swords from the Ethereal Visions Luna Edition Tarot deck. And I've got a deck of cards here. We're going to lay some cards out to answer the question, what message do you need to hear right now? And so since you chose the Ace of Swords, it makes me think maybe there's a conflict going on in your life right now that you're wondering about. Maybe a victory that you're trying to manifest. Could be that you are communicating with someone. There's something to do with communication that you're wondering about. Could also just be some intellectual matter, an idea that you've got. Maybe there's some new idea that's been swirling around in your head, and you want to get some insight onto that. So let's see what we've got. The message you need to hear in Ace of Swords territory. We'll lay out 3 cards to answer the question and then use the answer we get to generate a new question, and we'll rinse and repeat until we've laid out about 9 cards or however many we need. 9 Pentacles here starts us off. So this would suggest that you're someone who is independent, who's got a lot of the resources that they need to make them happy and comfortable, to support their well-being. All of these grapes look pretty delicious that she's been growing. She's sort of been cultivating her garden. It probably is very beautiful and smells very good. There's luxury involved here potentially. In some versions of this card, there's a little snail. I don't think that I see one here, but I remember that detail, and so it makes me think that she's able to slow down. She doesn't have to go fast, fast, fast all the time. She can luxuriate in the beautiful garden that she has grown. So that's the first card that we've got to give us some information. And next, the King of Wands pops up in the spread, a court card. It can be a person of any gender. There's this beautiful illuminated salamander here and the lions up at the top. So maybe we've got something to do with pets or animals happening. Uh, the King of Wands is someone who is often a leader or in a leadership position of some kind. They're in a position to command others, direct others. People look up to them. They're fiery, so they do often like to have attention. They're the kind of person who likes excitement. They want stimulation. Um, and they are the kind of person who really appreciates generosity, right? Like gifts, things like that. That's how they show their um, affection for other people. And so, this makes me think of a king up on their throne and they're in charge and they've got some luxuries, they've got their resources, and they're in a really good position here. 9 cups. Okay. So 9 pentacles and 9 cups. So there's two ways I can read this. One way would be the pentacles become cups. 9 pentacles turn into 9 cups. So we've got a bunch of resources or practical stuff, time, energy, money, whatever it might be. And this king, through the transformative power of fire, turns them into 9 cups. So they become nourishing, they become fulfilling. I also can't help but think of like the grapes turn into wine, right? Like turning something practical and good into something luxurious and even better, right? The 9 of Cups is often known as the wish card. Traditionally the idea was if the 9 of Cups, or if you're reading playing cards, it's 9 of Hearts, right? That if that card came up, you were going to get your wish. So I might say here, whatever you are doing, this sharp new idea that you have, or this thing you're trying to communicate to someone, or maybe this conflict that you've got, maybe you're trying to make a decision, like these cards are saying go for it because you are in a position to have power and knowledge and be established and turn a bunch of practical good things into a bunch of really fulfilling great things. Okay. So, like, if you're wondering, should I do this or should I do that? Yes or no? Yes. Right? Like, do it. This is really optimistic here. Um, oh, and I guess I said there were two ways to read this, and then I never said the other way. And so then the other way was this could be a choice, right? That the king has to choose between 9 pentacles and 9 cups. Like, do they want to have the 9 resources of time, energy, money, values, or health, or do they want to have the fulfilling cups? And so that is a possible way of reading it. Although I do tend to go more like a left to right, and read by what has been called, I believe, the law of transformation, right? Like the pentacles transform into cups when you read it from left to right. So I'm gonna, I think, follow that more. And because this is so incredibly optimistic, sorry, my battery went out there, but I am back. So I am going to ask the follow up question. What should you watch out for? Right? Like, What is an obstacle that could get in your way here? Because turning these pentacles into cups seems like it's going to go fairly smoothly if you're a king sitting up on your throne, but what could go wrong? Queen of Swords. So maybe there's a person who could cause you some trouble. I think of the swords often as the swords court cards as people who can cause us some trouble. She might be someone who's overly critical, overly judgmental um, of you, and that could cause you some problems. Knight of Cups. Well, the Knight of Cups is another court card here, and this is someone who may have problems with follow through. So, like, if you are depending on other people here, these other people might get in your way. I'm thinking, like, to go back to the wine analogy from a moment ago, like if you need other people to sort of stomp the grapes, um, they might not be able to be as helpful as you are anticipating that they will be. It's also possible, given that you've chosen the Ace of Swords for this reading and that the Queen of Swords came up, that you might be locking swords with that person. So there could be an argument or a conflict or something like that coming up with this woman who is represented as the Queen of Swords. With the Knight of Cups, it's less likely to be a conflict. I think the Knight of Cups avoids conflict, right? They're more watery, and so they're more likely to just like not show up instead of show up and have a confrontation. The Queen of Swords is going to show up for that confrontation, right? And she can be a formidable adversary. So Two of Swords. Okay, well, here we are. We've got all the things that you should be watching out for. So, other people. That is the first thing that you may need to be watching out for as you're making this decision or working on this new idea or communicating it or whatever it might be. Other people might be obstacles for you. With the Two of Swords, you may need to make a choice, and it might seem like it's a really impossible choice. It's possible even that you have to choose between these two people, right? Maybe you have to choose between this more mature woman and this younger person. And I say woman, but again, it could be a person of any gender, right? Um, Two of Swords, also something else that comes up with this card is I think of putting up boundaries, right? The way that the figure is sitting, she wants to be on her own, right? She's not inviting other people in, even though this Knight of Cups is like maybe coming over here to put the moves on her. He's very romantic. He wants to start a relationship, right? And she's got swords up and she's got a blindfold on. She's not looking at him. She's not thinking about that. She's trying to focus. She's putting up boundaries around herself. And so two ways to read that. One would be you may need to put up boundaries in order to overcome the obstacles that are ahead of you. But the other thing to consider would be other people may have boundaries up that you may need to figure out how to get around in order to bring this idea of yours to fruition. Let's take a third question and we will use what do you stand to gain? What good can come in this situation for you? King of Swords. Okay. So if you hear you're the King of Wands, here you're the King of Swords, which makes sense that you chose the Ace of Swords. So I think that what's happening is you are trying to make a change, right? And not a drastic one, but like there's a pivot kind of happening where you're working on something, you're building something, right? King of Wands, I think of that way. Wands being about building, creating. And King of Swords is more like an authority on a topic or a subject, right? King of Swords can show up there as like intellectuals, professors, wise people. They can also be like judges or lawyers. They're very learned, they're very intellectual, right? They know things. People come to the King of Swords with questions because the King of Swords knows the answer. And if they don't know the answer, they know where to get the answer. Um, and so that's the sense that I'm getting is that you stand to gain this pivot. You're still king, right? You still have that kind of authority, but it's a movement, like a change of orientation from one direction to another. Queen of Cups here in the middle. This is about being empathetic towards others. This is about having a great depth of feeling things that other people don't even know are happening or going on. Um, and this is a really good balance, I think, to have with some of the other court cards that have come out in this spread, like particularly that King of Wands that we started with in the first string of cards, because there's a sense now of balance from King of Wands to Queen of Cups. So I get a very big sense here of becoming a more well-rounded individual, right? Someone who each aspect of your personality is sort of blossoming and coming out. Ooh, and the Emperor. So what do you stand to gain? Well, you stand to gain being more disciplined, more in control, and like going from king to emperor, right? Like kings are great, but the emperor is the emperor. You know what I mean? The emperor is the sort of the king of the kings, we might say, in the tarot deck. So there's a lot of advancement, growth, um, potentially to gain for you here. All right, please consider liking and subscribing, and let me know in the comments below which of these cards resonated for you. I'd love to hear about it. I'm always excited to hear different interpretations of the tarot, and I will leave it there. Thank you so much. Have a great day, and I will see you in your next reading. Hello, Group 4, and welcome to your reading. You chose the Ace of Wands from the Ethereal Visions Luna Edition Tarot. I've got that card here. I'm just going to stack it over in the corner so that I can see it, but that I'll still have plenty of room to lay down cards for us. So I'm going to shuffle the deck while I think about the question and I think about its relationship to the card you chose, this Ace of Wands. And so with the Ace of Wands, I think about career, I think about passion, I think about whatever it might be that gets you out of bed, gets you going in the morning, creativity, what lights a fire under you, all of that kind of stuff comes to mind. I also think of wands as something that you build things with. So, like if you're actually creating something, a business, or improving your resume, or building a relationship, or whatever it might be, all of those would fit into a reading like this. So let's just give these a little more of a shuffle, and then we will lay out 3 cards to answer the question, what message do you need to hear right now? Okay. Two of Wands, from Ace of Wands to Two of Wands. So, planning, getting ready to take action, but not yet taking that action. Figuring out what it's going to look like first. Not yet going out into the world. First, preparing. That's where we're at. Preparing. We could also think with the two as being at a kind of crossroads. Should I go this way? Should I go that way? Should I stay home? Should I go out? Should I move? Should I not? That kind of thing with Two of Wands. Seven Cups. Seven Cups show up. So here, again, we've got a question of like lots of choices here, but instead of two being in a crossroads, it's like the choices have multiplied, and now we've got seven different options, and it's unclear even if any of them are good options. With this card, we see there's quite a lot of smoke, billows of smoke or mist, a kind of dreaminess in the background. There's this castle created like out of nothing. It's not real. It's a fantasy. It's a screen. It's blocking you perhaps from seeing what really is there. This big monster that seems to have crawled out, it's not real, okay? And you've got a mask on, right? So you are maybe not interacting with the world in a fully authentic kind of way. Those would all be warnings to think of with this card. Optimistic things or positive things with the Seven of Cups to focus on would be you do have lots of options, right? And it is possible to choose one of them, okay? There may be a sense of growing choices. Oh, good, the sun. I love the way the light reflects on this card. I hope that you can see it. So, with the sun, we've got warmth, happiness, freedom, sunshine, illumination. We've got a sense that we can be authentically ourselves with other people. Often with the sun, I think in terms of friendship, especially. And so, um, what lesson or what message do you need to hear right now that has to do with the Ace of Wands? And I'd say, whatever choices you are facing, whatever plans you are making, keep your friendships at the forefront of the decisions that you're coming up against. Okay. Um, be and this the thing I would add to that is not just friendships, but um, you know that feeling you get when you feel like you can just really be yourself around somebody else. That's what I think of with the sun, right? So make plans, make decisions, make choices that aren't obscured by some idea of what you think they are. Make the plans and choices that make you feel warmth and that make you feel like they're very much in line with what really truly matters to you. I think of the way that sunflowers, these I believe are sunflowers, turn towards the sun, right? And so I would say the message is like turn yourself to face the sun. Here, the figure is sort of looking down and away off in the distance. Here, the figure has a mask on. There's a skull looking up. But here we get the sun just like beaming down on us. So the sun would also clear away, illuminate, or burn off all of these clouds that we see in the Seven of Cups. And even in the background here on the Two of Wands, there are quite a number of clouds. So I would say um, make sure that the path before you is clearly illuminated before you set off on your journey or before you make your choice. Make sure you're well informed and that it's all clearly illuminated and that everything's out in the light. Nothing's hidden behind clouds or in the dark. So, as a follow up question to this, let's ask, how can you ensure the plans and choices and decisions you're making are appropriately illuminated? Like, how should you be behaving? How should you, um, what actions could you take to get the best results? The Empress. So you need to take care of yourself, nurture yourself, and be prepared to grow, but also set yourself in a comfortable way so that you can grow, right? So if you feel like you're making plans and you're not ready to leave home yet, or like go out into the world yet because um, it's too uncomfortable, the Empress would say, like, that's okay. Find a way to make it comfortable, right? Yes, you want to grow, but the kind of growth that the Empress is advocating for and is the lesson she's trying to teach you is like, you have to be comfortable to learn, right? If you're angry, if you're scared, if you're fearful, if you're anxious, you're reacting instead of actually growing. Ooh, the world makes an appearance. Beautiful. So, this is about completion, resolution. It's also about elevating yourself, right? Um, Going up off of the earth and like being elevated. Uh, it's also just very optimistic about like you can gain the world here, right? So, like, what should you be doing? You should be preparing for a great resolution. Um, I also can't help but think of, on many versions of the Two of Wands cards, the figure holds a globe, holds the world, right? Suggesting that, like, it's something, it's an object they're aspiring to have, but not something they have yet. And so, what you need to do, I think, is find a way to take care of yourself and be comfortable so that you can grow and, but go out into the world, like elevate yourself out into the world. So, if there is some decision that you're trying to make, or if there is some new project that you're considering starting, something new that you want to build, and you're wondering, like, should I do it? um, yes, plan for it. Don't be deceived by fantasy, um, but um, prepare yourself, illuminate all of your options available to you so that you can take care of yourself and go out into the world and be a queen of pentacles. This could be a person of any gender, but it's someone who has achieved a lot and who is absolutely comfortable, very much like our Empress over here on the left. Um, so you should be like the Queen of Pentacles. This is someone who is dependable. She knows what she values above all. She's a kind of connoisseur or curator in the sense that she's been through it. She's learned a lot. She's not a page or a knight anymore. She is a queen, and she has figured out what really matters to her and also what maybe doesn't matter to her anymore. She, the Queen of Pentacles, would be able to get through this situation without too much trouble. If she's faced with all these seven cups and doesn't know, like, which are real, which ones do I care about, which ones can I forget, she has determined all of that for herself. She knows who she is, she knows what she cares about. And so making a Seven of Cups choice is not so hard for her anymore, because she just asks herself, like, well, what will make me feel secure? What will make me safe? What is going to give me the resources that I need to thrive? What is going to be good for my well being? And then she's going to make choices that are in accordance with that. Let's ask a third question. We know now how you should behave, right? Take care of yourself, go out to the world, make choices, do things that are in accordance with what you value, and figure out what it is you value if you don't already know. So, we're going to ask to end, what can you stand to gain? What is coming up for you? What can you get? Or how could you grow? Or what results could come for you? Seven of Swords. So, on the one hand, this card can be about sneaking around, not getting caught, doing things where you could get caught. It can be about deception, lies, that kind of thing. But not only that. I read this card too as this figure is doing something that is very important to them. They're taking these swords, and they're probably not supposed to be doing it, but they're doing it anyways. Why? Because they know they value it. They know it's the right thing to do to come back to our Queen of Pentacles again, right? If you are the Queen of Pentacles, you know what's right and wrong. You know what's good and bad. You know what's valuable and what's not. You know how you should invest yourself and when you shouldn't. And other people might not get it. That's what this card says. Other people are like, why are you stealing those swords? Or why do you have so many swords at all? Why are you hiding them under a cloak? It doesn't make any sense. I don't get it. I don't understand you. And the Queen of Pentacles is like, well, I understand me. And that's all that really matters. So what do you stand to gain? Um, I would think it's a deepening of your values, even in the face of adversity where other people don't necessarily understand. And that is very much reinforced with what we're seeing here on the Hierophant card. Uh, the Hierophant card is about conventionality, traditions, institutions, following the teachings of others. And here I think what we're learning is you're in a position right now to say no, to say, I'm going to follow my own traditions. I'm going to not mock conventionality, that would be the devil card, but I'm going to find out what my own conventions are, right? Like, I'm not going to do things like other people just because I've been taught to do that. I'm going to figure out what it is that I really value, and I'm going to do what I really value, right? Even if other people don't get it, even if it doesn't make sense to them, because I know what's right, right? So, like creating your own belief system that may not have anything to do with a traditional, conventional set of beliefs. Beautiful. Finally, temperance. What do you stand to gain? Temperance is all about growth, right? You temper steel by heating it and cooling it rapidly, and it becomes more flexible, less brittle, it becomes stronger, right? But it has to go through the fire in order for that to happen, right? What doesn't kill us makes us stronger, so to speak. This is also about mixing, bringing opposites together. It's about doing the impossible, doing something other people didn't think you could do, maybe bending or even breaking the rules a little bit. So a much greater, more expansive, I think, sense of self comes through here that isn't bound by other people's ideas of who you should be or what you should do. So with this Ace of Wands, there's like a great new spark that you've got, and with planning and figuring out what really truly matters to you, illuminating any questions, making sure you're taking care of yourself. I think at the center of this all, we've got the world, right? Going out, doing something great in the world, building something for yourself in the world. Please consider liking and subscribing if you got something out of this reading, and let me know in the comments below, like what stood out to you, what resonated with you. I'd love to hear about it. Thank you so much. I'll end the reading here. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you in your next reading.